Hello, Ryan here, and welcome to Star Citizen Sunday. This is a weekly show which covers all of the news from the week just past. Be sure to subscribe if you like what you see, and let's get on with it. This week, we see what the first two predatory creatures will look like. 3.10 goes into ENQUIRIES testing, plus we learn more about the alien races with Alien Week. So, before we begin, a very generous channel member of mine called The Doctor has kindly donated a monthly RSI Mantis game package to give away here on YouTube while it is on sale. The giveaway will be drawn on the 27th of each month. All you have to do to enter is hit subscribe and comment in any of my videos between now and the 27th of this month, telling me what you're most excited for about 3.10. A massive thank you to the Doctor for this incredible giveaway. It is so very kind of you, and best of luck everyone. So just a quick heads up about Alpha 3.10. It has now begun its ENQUIRIES testing phase, with the PTU patch being deployed yesterday for a few hours. There will likely be a few more Evo tests this week, and likely into the next week as well, with maybe Wave 1 coming closer to the end of the month. I have covered the leaked patch notes in a separate video should you want to check that out, and I will also be covering all of the leaks as they happen, so make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss out. So inside Star Citizen this week kicked off looking at creatures. They have begun working on creatures, as we know, and these are going to populate the verse all over the place. They started with Boids a few years ago, which are kind of floating crabs, which we are still yet to see in-game anyway. But more recently, they have created a cow-like animal called the Kazi Grazer, and they have spoken about the space whales. Well, now they're looking into predators, creatures that will attack you and be dangerous. They started by picking an archetype, more animal behavior than a visual. Types like bears, gorillas, crabs or tigers, just to give an idea of what the type of creature they want to create. It also helps them to determine the creature's behavior. For example, if they create a bear-like creature, maybe it would be content on just eating fruit and not attack you unless you provoked it. They then use this information to create tons of concepts, which we can see a few of them here, most of which will actually never get made, but it allows them to find and explore the visuals. After a couple of rounds of concepts, they settled on the first two predator creatures that we will see. First one being a crab. This is to be found in the Pyro system, and it's kind of being known as the Pyro crab. She'll be a queen of a hive with smaller crabs around her like worker crabs, and they'll have bioluminescence. She'll also be able to hunker down and disguise herself as a group of rocks, and you won't know she's there until you sort of get right on top of her. The next one is a Yeti-style bear creature, which is to be found in Microtech. They said it might be a result of genetic manipulation from Earth creatures, but right now they are creating a pipeline to make these into a reality. Just like the character in the ship pipeline, this will involve multiple teams going through the process of AI, design, animation, just everything to bring these creatures to life. Now this is super incredible to see that they are working on these. It's likely quite a way off, but I cannot wait to see these in-game. Anything that CIG create, they have a full history and a lore to them as well, which we can read about and learn about before we meet them. And I will do a separate video exploring further into these creatures, but it is very exciting to see them now coming to life. Anyway, from there, they spoke about the upcoming locations in 3.10. We started looking at the Factory Line Shop, which is the upcoming Microtech flagship store found within New Babbage. This is coming to Alpha 3.10, as I say, so the next patch. This is the premier store for Microtech's consumer products that are at the cutting edge of technology. The shop is an experience, they say, which has many items for sale, like the new Mobiglass, an augmented reality contact lens, your SIM pods. On the third floor is the amphitheatre, which will be used to showcase their corporate tech, but also utilised for Microtech's keynotes, so think along the lines of Apple products. Now this is actually a really nice contrast to the current shops we have like Dumpers Depot, Tamney & Sons and Scutters. Having a clean, bright, sort of high roller shop for stuff that has a great feeling to it. And also when they talk about this AR contact lens, I wonder if they will actually allow us to take it off and go completely UI free if we wanted to, or maybe upgrade our current one to a more mining or combat specific version. That is something that I've been wanting for a long while, is to be able to completely remove AR. And we have heard that the contact lens is what gives us the initial basic HUD while we're not wearing a helmet. So fingers crossed. Next up was Derelicts. All of the existing Derelict ships are getting a revamp. Each derelict will tell its own story as to what happened, sort of giving the impression that it was once a functioning ship with a crew that used to live on them. They wanted to give the impression that they have been derelict for years as well, so they've added a few things to them to make them look more permanent. One thing they have done, which is pretty cool, is they have split the interior and exteriors so that they will act as shelters for players if the weather outside is bad. Love that idea. Also, they now have a much more accurate lighting read inside of the derelicts, giving a much nicer feel to them. And as I say, they've added more mud and rocks to make it feel more integrated with the terrain and give a better impression that they have actually crashed there at quite a speed. Now, I've always been fond of the derelict ship missions. In fact, they're pretty much my favourite missions. Finding missing crew, black box missions, delivery box retrieval missions, those sort of things I thoroughly enjoy. So I'm super happy that their derelicts are getting more attention, especially adding more of a backstory to what happened. Being able to explore them and try and figure it out and piece it together as you go would be fun. I do hope that they add more of these missions to the game for 3.10. I assume the missions were just sort of decreased or even switched off as they needed to replace these derelicts on the new planet tech. Either way, I'm super excited to get them back in and get exploring. Finally, we took a look at Grim Hex. This is pretty much your illegal place in Stanton. Very shady characters will be coming and going here. Now, they've added a racing kiosk where players will be able to place bets on actual races taking place around the asteroids, or the asteroid field just on the outskirts of Grim Hex. They took a sort of rundown unused section of Grim Hex and converted it into a racing shop. Gave it a lot of cyberpunk bright lights with betting kiosks and screens that will display the leaderboards and the seasons or the current race that's going on. Inside will be a guy called Luca Brunt, who is the sort of betting NPC where you can go and place your bets. There'll be lots of seating and walkways to watch the race, buy drinks and even a VIP area. I'm so happy that Grim Hex is now getting some love. This place is coming together and looking way more established. It'll be a lot of fun taking part and watching these races. I'll have to get back into Arena Commander and get some practice in these races going. But it's coming along. A good sort of money sink where we can go and bet all of our cash and lose it all and get into a fight and try and get some back. But anyway, that is Inside Star Citizen. Let's move on. So this week's Star Citizen Live was with the lore team talking about the alien races of the verse. This is to celebrate Alien Week, which begun on First Contact Day, which is the day that we first discovered we were not alone in the verse by bumping into a Banu. You can read more about that on the Spectrum website. So let's get to the Q&A. First question being, will we find out more about the Carrack? Now, if you didn't know, this race was actually a stretch goal in the early funding years, and the Carrack are a race who are at war with the Xi'an. They are located on the other side of Xi'an space, but the Xi'an didn't really tell us much about them. I think they wanted to keep it kind of secret. The lore team did say, though, that certain things they want players to discover and learn about in the game, rather than always on Spectrum posts or videos. Plus, they are heavily working on other races right now, so it does sound like we will find out more about them, but more in-game rather than via the website. I like this approach rather than jumping in-game and already knowing everything about the game and the lore, allowing us to be the ones that discover something about species and share the news will be very exciting. Next question, talking about species of developing worlds, what can they tell us? So a developing world is a planet which is inhabited by a species who are sentient and are kind of developing technology and will one day join us in space. They're kind of classed as anyone below spacefaring. Now, the UEE has a law, which is the Fair Chance Act, which prohibits any contact with any developing civilization to allow the developing species to grow naturally. More of this is available on the Spectrum. There is a senator running for Imperator who wants to amend the Fair Chance Act and maybe allow us to go down to certain areas of a planet, because this whole Fair Chance Act was kind of created before whole full planets, procedural planets, were a thing. So they may shave it down a little bit so players can explore parts of planets rather than just not all of it. It is all very political, and whether we should interfere or not is definitely down to people's opinions. The Xi'ans are actually a developing species on a planet called Osso, who apparently communicate through light, like cuttlefish. Be sure to read the story Lost Generations on the website. It is an extremely incredible story. And there's another developing species, I think, who are like algae or something along those lines. It is all very interesting stuff, and I highly recommend taking a read. Anyway, next question is to do with the Tavarin. So with this election for Imperators, They're trying to assimilate Tavarin into the UEE a little more. Can you tell us more about that? And most of the people running for Imperator do want the Tavarin to be integrated more within the UEE. Maybe having more Tavarin working within the UEE, like having them work in offices and so forth. Another senator is actually wanting to give Tavarin equality, but not special treatment. They are all pro-Tavarin though, so do bear that in mind. And some of you may know of the Senator Suj Cozy, who is a Tavarin who served in the UEE Navy. Lots of Tavarin do see working with the UEE as a ladder to get to better positions, and with the current election, many candidates are trying to encourage a more diverse UEE, so they do want to help Tavarin join more, but there are other Tavarins who don't want to blend in with the human race. If you don't know, we did go to war with them twice, in fact, and after defeating them, we kind of absorbed them into our own culture. Again, another fascinating topic, should you want to learn more about it. Now, in regards to their language, most Tavarins that are absorbed in the UEE speak English, but there are certain groups that still use Tavarin as their permanent language. Mostly in places like Branna, which is where a good vast majority of the Tavarin have moved back to. That's their homeworld. It may be different to the original Tavarin language, but they will still be around, that you can learn it if you wish. Next questions are about the Xi'an. So how did the Xi'an develop? They weren't top of their food chain. What's the story? Now, they kind of feel like the Xi'an weren't self-aware to begin, and predators of their homeworld used to kill them, which kind of forced the Xi'an to develop to protect themselves. Then maybe they killed off that threat. See, the Xi'an have a very long lifespan that allows them to develop deeper. They do actually have a planet, like a zoo planet, which is kind of a preserve for all of the life in their system. It'll be very cool to visit that one day. Now, they are actually a highly developed race of the Xi'an, and they have created anti-grav. They actually created that before space travel. This is also used by the humans, thanks to the Xi'an, and a lot of the Xi'an ancestral clothing uses anti-gravity. Next few questions are on the Banu. So the Banu trade with the Vanduul. How did all this start? And apparently they don't really necessarily want to tell us how they started trading with the Vanduul, as obviously this is kind of giving them more like exclusive trade rights with them. But you may see Vanduul items with, like, if you go into trades with certain Banu who have traded with Vanduul and collected these items, but it is still unclear as to how they do it. I will definitely collect Vanduul items. Someone asked if the Banu use ground vehicles. Now, they say they probably would do, because anything they find useful, they will use. The alien ships that we have available to us now are by no means all there will be. They will develop as they go. So maybe a potential to see a Banu ground vehicle one day. Next question regarding the Vanduul. Will we ever see a Vanduul NPC in the PU? More of a peaceful character. Now, they did say that as you get closer to Vanduul systems, you will have to deal with the Vanduul raiding clans on occasion. But as it stands today, no human has ever made peaceful contact with a Vanduul. Obviously, we know they do trade with the Banu, so they are capable of peaceful trade negotiations, but I guess a lot of it will be clan by clan basis. The Vanduul clans are very distinct in their own ways and their own politics as well. So maybe one day in the future we'll get to see a certain clan that are like friendly towards humans, but we haven't really dealt with them beyond or during the act of war, so it's unlikely, but we'll see. Next question, all races are humanoids. How do you distinguish them more? Now, obviously, these are races that we know of. Now, they do play with the senses and how these other races experience the world. The Banu, for example, can survive in greater temperatures or atmospheres, making them less cautious. The Xi'an have a very long lifespan, so they react differently to humans in many ways. I must say, the depth that Cloud Imperium go to for alien races really just helps to create that diversity, all the way down to the races' languages. It's all affected by their history, their physiology, and it is extremely vast if you actually sort of look into it a bit further. Someone asked about alien musical instruments or music. Now, they do have plans for alien music, which will take a lot more work and coordination, as it will actually need to be physically created and not just written down. But the Xi'an do like operas, but instead of their operas lasting maybe a couple of hours, they could last a full day and is very drawn out and drony due to their long lifespans. The Tavarin have also got a sort of unified chanting system which they will need to develop. Their music will be for group coordinated sort of rhythmic things, boasting their size. The Banu don't really have much music culture and have more taken to our music and enjoy things like karaoke and really loud music, which is quite interesting. With the growing languages, how will you integrate them into the game, so visibly seeing them? Now, they have actually already integrated much of the Banu language into the verse. If you check out some vendor carts and signage around ArtCorp, you can see the Banu language there. They did say that if you take the time to learn languages, they may likely open up some possibilities for certain things, or even better communications between the races, but it won't be something completely necessary. Basically, the way they say it is, it's going to be fun and rewarding for those who take the time to learn it, but not crushing for those who don't. So maybe reading something on the side of a ruin that will give you a better route or a clue as to how to enter the ruin. They may also have a translation app for the Moby-Glass, but it won't be as good as learning the language. Things may get lost in translation, so we'll see how that develops. And anyway, the final question is, who are the native species of the Hades system, and will we see them? Apparently they're all dead. The Hades system is kind of a wrecked system in which the inhabitants wiped each other out and cracked their planet in doing so. So chances of seeing the Hades species is very unlikely, except for as a ghost. Anyway, that was Star Citizen Live. Very interesting stuff with the lore team. Do let me know your thoughts. Let's move on. So also this week we had a new Showdown post which spoke about one of the running candidates for the Imperator voting. Squadron 42's monthly report was posted on the Spectrum, but I have already covered this in a separate video which I will link below. June subscriber Flare are coloured multi-tools, we've got red, blue and gold. An Alien Week kicked off on the 12th of June to celebrate First Contact Day, which was between the humans and the Banu. This is a week-long event celebrating all things alien between the 12th of June till the 19th of June. So do expect to see a lot more on the Spectrum focused around all the alien races throughout the verse. It should be quite a good one. I'll do a more in-depth video looking into this when we learn more. So that brings us to the end of the show. If you do enjoy my content, please consider subscribing and hitting that like button. Also, I am able to do this thanks to my very generous patrons and channel members. If you appreciate what I do and would like to help make it even better from as little as $1 a month, all of the links are provided below.